Oh, hi. There seems to be a special guest here with me today. Tyler, why don't you introduce yourself?
I am Tyler May, and I am inside the Media Lab.
There's this huge thing sweeping the nation, as I've been told. It's this thing called Enneagram. Mm-hmm. It's coming after Instagram fast and hard.
Yeah, it's a different social media.
That's right. Yeah. So you're going to help me figure out what my personality type is, essentially, is what this is. But maybe you can go into a bit of a deeper philosophy about why this was created in the first place.
I need to just shave my head. I keep getting flack whenever I say I'm going to shave my head, though. So this is why I don't vlog anymore. So the Enneagram is essentially a structure for personality typing, and it's a little different from like a Myers-Briggs, where like you kind of figure out who you are rather than like there's tests and stuff, but I advise people don't take tests.
I'm too cool for tests. You're the teacher that walks in on the first day of school and like turns the chair around. It's like, let's rap, kids.
What's cool with Snapchat?
Filters, am I right?
Basically, it boils everything down to 9 basic personality types. And the thing that I like about this the most is like it's not like putting you in this box that like you are this personality type, because I'm pretty skeptical of things that are mostly like personality types and like astrology and those types of things. So this takes into account the fluidity of personality, and so it has like a range of levels between your how you act at your unhealthy levels and how you act at your healthy levels.
So just like sexuality, your personality is fluid. Why did you try and figure out what your personality was inside this Enneagram?
I got introduced first to Enneagram through a few podcasts that were actually really good. There's one by The Liturgist that has like a couple different episodes about it. It's like really well done and in-depth in about like 3 hours. And so I kind of got introduced through that. It kind of boils things down also to like everybody has a basic fear and a basic desire. So are you interested in finding out who you are, Kyle?
I am. Let's do this thing. Now, do we figure out what the 9 personality types are at the very beginning, or we're going to find out?
That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, you are an accredited psychologist. So.
I am not at all. The best thing that this is used for is not to like say, oh, I'm this, and attaching yourself to something, some identity, but to say, we're just going to use this structure as a tool for empathy.
The 9 are what, like wizard, mage?
Yeah, there's 3 for DPS, there's 3 tanks. And these 9 basic personality types can be described as 1, the reformer. They use numbers, so like I would be a type, insert blank. I'll let you, I haven't told Kyle the type, so we're going to play a game. I'm going to guess who you are and you can guess who I am. So type 1 is the reformer. These are rational, idealistic people who are very concerned with like truth and integrity. So these are the people who have actually like the biggest inner critic. So you don't really want to criticize ones because they're already constantly criticizing everything that they do. So like I can kind of relate to that. There's 2s. These are your stereotypical mom types. So they're called the helpers. These are the person that are like the most caring, generous, giving people out there, which can also turn into like negative aspects as all they want is like other people to do well, and that can like turn into like a form of selfishness and stuff like through that, because their motives are just to make everybody else happy.
Also +2 on fire attacks.
Number 3 is the achiever. These are, I describe these most as like, this is your basic like successful marketing type of person.
Those guys.
So these are success-oriented, pragmatic people, but they're also like really image conscious, and so they might be somebody to. I have a friend who constantly is concerned about like his weight. So as one individual example, and like. Dude's jacked, but he's always concerned about his image and how he's looking, and has like fresh suits and everything. And he's a stereotypical 3. 4s are the individualists. These are people who are usually highly creative, but also like the most sensitive type. They can be dramatic and expressive, but also like self-absorbed. These people, the best way I've heard it explained is they kind of see life through looking at a window, where they see that everybody else has this thing to life, and it's just like that makes them a human, and they don't feel like they have that. So they're always constantly like kind of looking at life through a window, and they really want people to like pry into them subconsciously, but they don't really let them, and they like to be unique, and their main drive is to be like genuine and authentic. The 5 is the investigator. This is the type that are like the most cerebral. These are your engineers essentially. So these are people that
analytical type.
Yeah,
minds?
very analytical. These are people who are usually like, it can be inventors. Inventors are usually 5s, and they're a lot of times they struggle with like feeling emotion and are like highly rational, logical people. The 6 is the loyalist. I've heard that this is the most common type. My dad is one of these. He is a insurance agent, and so that is the most stereotypical job, I feel like, for a number 6, because these are the most like anxious, driven, security motivated people. Of like, these are the people that make sure all the other types stay alive. These are the people that are investing in 401ks and like their child's like college savings and are constantly like worrying about the future and are helping keep everybody going. 7s are the enthusiasts. These are the adventure chasers, the fun-loving, spontaneous types, but they can also be like conflict avoiders because they're always looking for like the next coolest thing, and so they don't think through a lot of things. They can like devolve into like just chasing like the thing that's going to give them the most emotion or like thrill-seeking type of activity.
I see a big no on that one for me.
8s are known as the challenger. This is probably the most misunderstood type on the Enneagram. These are powerful, dominating types. So think like Trump. So these are people, but what they get misunderstood because they're constantly like kind of arguing, or it seems like they're arguing and being aggressive.
Are these the actually people?
But these are people who actually like find intimacy and growth in their personal relationships through like debate and being like, if you disagree with them, like they love that. But they can get misperceived as like somebody who's always seeking like argument.
Gotcha.
And then number 9 is the Peacemaker. These are easygoing, self-effacing people who are very agreeable, known as like mediator like types that are usually can be philanthropic. These are people that can always put themselves in other people's shoes usually and can see two sides to literally everything, but have a hard time picking a side, and also have a hard time like feeling any sense of like identity for themselves because they're constantly feeling the identity of others. So they commonly merge.
I thought you were going to say they murder people.
Oh yeah, no, big murderers.
Big murderers in number 9.
Yeah. Merge with other personalities.
I can't reconcile this conflict.
That's the basic 9 types. I went a little into detail, but not too much.
No, that's good. That's perfect. And you can definitely jump into more detail. Or like
we're going to leave a link in the description that shows you type descriptions that you can look into.
Bowl over me, of course, yes. Whose channel is this? I have a big feeling I know how I would categorize myself now that you've read out those 9.
Do you want me to guess what you are? And
guess what I am.
I think you're a 4.
Really?
I think you could also be a 9, 3, or 1. I can see you being a 1 very easily. But
so when you first started reading this out, I was like, yeah, number 1. And every time you said another one, I'm pretty sure number 1. Until you got to number 9, I actually identify more with that than any of the other ones.
That was kind of what I was thinking second. I was like 4 or 9 is Kyle. 9s often misidentify themselves because they're constantly merging with other personalities and trying to like make sure everything's okay, but like holding internal conflict all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we actually were having this conversation last night off camera. I know, weird. I often feel like I just don't have enough information, so I like to hear both points of view. I'm like, I understand this and over here, and trying to reconcile like what I really feel about a certain issue is really hard for me sometimes.
But they're also known as like kind of the lowest energy level because a lot social activity usually and a lot of things can just take a whole lot out of them if they're not connected to passion.
Now I have to try and figure out what you are.
What do you think?
Is psychopath an option?
I am definitely one of those, self-identified.
I'm going to guess either a 5 or a 7.
Either a 5 or a 7. So 5s are those who don't feel like people and are highly logical and analytical. So thanks. Enthusiasts are people who are super spontaneous and adventure-driven and chase the next adventure.
Yeah.
I am neither.
What?
Because I am also a 9. It's hard to be like, oh, you're a 9 too. 9s like to think that they're genuine.
Like the little chameleon.
Yeah, 9s like to think that they're really unique, and so they're like, nobody else is a 9 because I'm a 9. I feel that all the time.
Yeah, let's do a deep dive on number 9.
Here is a brief description from the Enneagram Institute website of 9s. 9s are trusting and stable, usually creative, optimistic, and supportive, willing to go along with others to keep the peace. They're all about the peace. So that's their key motivation and their basic desire is to have inner stability and like peace of mind.
Do you get super anxious if there's like an argument happening
Always,
around you?
consistently. That's why 8s are really hard to deal with because they're constantly like challenging you,
like
and it just takes so much out of you. The basic fear, though, which I find myself being charged more than my basic desire, is a fear of loss, of separation, and rejection.
This happens when I'm leaving like a job or like when I was at summer camp or other thing. That last day was always the hardest for me. It's like I'm saying goodbye or like doing this huge big separation at the end of VidCon every year. It's just like I'm in like a big depression as I'm flying home. It's like, oh, I'm separated again from everyone.
That's why some people have been like, oh, are you a 7 because you're always traveling and doing things? I'm just like, no, I'm trying not to have loss and separation constantly, so I'm seeing everybody I know pretty frequently, so I don't feel that, which kind of makes it worse. The cool thing about the Enneagram also is there's wings to your personality type, so you can have a 9-wing 1 or a 9-wing 8, so that's probably why you identified a little bit with that 1 inner critic. So we're both hypercritical.
I now want a shirt that says 9-wing 1. Tell me some of these people that apparently are 9s.
Jack Johnson. These actually aren't as interesting as they would seem. Woody Harrelson.
I see George Lucas over there.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say a lot of people say Jesus is, but that sounds like I'm Jesus. Like,
wait,
I'm like
Jesus potential.
We're Jesus people.
I like how they have Homer and Marge Simpson. How do you know that? That's not even real people.
Yeah. So
this
a lot
whole
of
thing
these.
is bunk.
Yeah. So the key motivation for 9s is wanting to create harmony in their environment and to avoid conflicts and tension, to preserve things as they are, to resist whatever would upset or disturb them. The absolute best way I've heard this described, it was a podcast, I think it's called The Road Back to You. They have a really good podcast about Enneagram types, and they interview different types. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. Is due to the fact that 9s avoid conflict, so they wall themselves off to any outside conflict to disturb their peace and their peace of mind and that stability, but they also hold in conflict, so they're walled 2 ways, so they're holding in all of their conflict because they don't want to bring anything to disturb other people's peace, and like they hate conflict.
This is like making so much sense in my life. I've been talking to a friend the other day about like how I'm literally exhausted at the end of every single day.
It's you're walled off in 2 different directions, holding in all the conflict while trying to avoid all the outside conflict, and that's why 9s typically have low energy levels. Idealizing others and going along with their wishes, which is why we become mergers with other people's personalities a lot of times. With their wishes, saying yes to things they don't really want to do, fall into conventional roles.
Every single day.
They fall into conventional roles and expectations, but use philosophies and stock sayings to deflect others. Ow, got me.
Like right there in the heart. If you know this, like how can you utilize this in your life?
I think that this is a really good tool for empathy and also just understanding your motivations, especially when you're delving down into unhealthy levels. And I love seeing like people's eyes light up when they're first discovering this. If you want to roll it back and be like, you had a moment, and I was like, got him.
You started off by saying that some of this feels like it's like that weird spirituality that I don't really love.
And there's like a diagram that kind of looks like a pentagram.
I can see that. Yeah, interesting.
I'm a little skeptical of it.
But it's like I've had these conversations with people like, when were you born? It's like, total cancer. I'm like, all right, like stop it. Tyler, thank you so much for taking me through this.
Yeah.
I now know I am a 9W1.
Yeah. You won because you have the biggest inner critic of any 9. Yes.
Awesome. Yes. So if people wanted to, is there a way that they can find you on the internet?
Okay. On the off chance, you can find me at Tyler May Media on anything. I do photography. If you're into that, you can do Instagram. I also run a mental health podcast called Mr. Feels Podcast.
Great podcast. I will say this, because I know you're going to India here very soon.
Am.
You're selling prints. You should go and buy some of Tyler's prints.
TylerMayMedia.com/prints, raising money for that. And they're pretty cheap, actually. So, yeah.
They're great. We'll continue this conversation on Thursday. I almost forgot what day of the week it was.